welcome to Halton News. We'll be back with another live newscast tonight at 5:30. Until then, here's a look back at last night's newscast. There are 25 more confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Halton since yesterday, bringing our new total number of active cases to 178. Of all those active cases, we only have one Halton resident currently being treated in hospital, and that's at Joseph Brant Hospital. Breaking our numbers down by region, you can see that there are currently 43 Burlington residents who have tested positive, 84 who live in Oakville, 27 current cases in Milton, and 24 Halton Hills residents are currently affected. During the first wave of COVID-19, retirement residents were particularly hard hit with outbreaks. Here in Halton, we had 22 outbreaks in local retirement and long-term care centers. Those outbreaks have resolved, but now with what many are calling the beginning of a second wave, we currently have 4 declared outbreaks. It is important to note that it only takes one positive test for the word outbreak to be used in these particular settings. 3 of the current outbreaks are in Burlington, one in Billings Court Manor, another in Kama Woodlands Nursing Home, and a third in Creekway Village Long-Term Care. The other affected residence is in Burlington's Chartwell Waterford Retirement Residence, where a staff member has confirmed positive and is awaited a second test to confirm the diagnosis to see whether it's accurate. Those of you who have been concerned about the future of Burlington and wanting to know about the changes to the official plan, well, you should be aware that this week you can be involved in hearing about the updates and proposed amendments to that official plan. Burlington's Mayor Marianne Mead Ward is joining us now during a very busy week for Council.
There is lots going on in the city, and tomorrow is a big day. We have our downtown official plan amendment discussion. So we've been, when this council was elected, newly installed, the first thing we did was commit to a review of the adopted plan. Residents were very clear that they did not support or like or want the excessive heights that were in that plan, and they wanted a do-over. So we've spent the last year and a bit, and we've actually had a little bit of extra time because of COVID to review a couple of thousand pages of background studies and reports. That is all coming to committee tomorrow for discussion starting at 9:30 in the morning. Followed by a council vote on October 7th. So you can participate in both or one or the other. There are 9 amendments that myself and Ward 2 Councillor Lisa Kearns are bringing forward. Some final changes that we are going to bring to the plan that we think will make it better for the community. They're centered around heritage protection, around parks, around making sure that there's a low-rise character near Village Square and so forth. So you can see those all online, and it looks to be a very, probably a lengthy and very intense, but a really good discussion. It's extremely important.
Yes, and the original proposals for increased height density allowances in certain areas in Burlington's downtown has certainly been a contentious issue. There are proposed amendments that should help ease those concerns. Is that right?
So there's a couple of sections. Village Square and Downtown East are 2 key areas, and the rest really deal with existing applications. We're saying, you know, there are applications that are already part of a planning process. Let's not prejudge and give height there. Let that go through the process. So the other 2 really are downtown east side of Burlington, so east of Brant. And it's been identified with some of the studies that have been done as a potential cultural heritage landscape. And that is because there are so many potential heritage buildings in this area, 7 in one area called the Downtown East Core, but none of those are protected by being designated under the Ontario Heritage Act, which would prevent them from being torn down. So the proposal in the current plan is to increase the heights there from 4 stories, which is what is in the existing official plan, up to 17. And I have serious concerns about that. I think it will actually make the air rights above those heritage buildings worth more than the buildings themselves, and just make it that much harder for us to preserve our heritage, which is actually one of the mandates we have under provincial policy and growth policy. It says you shall conserve heritage resources. So that's a change that we'll be bringing is to suggest that we don't increase the heights there, and that we actually kind of push pause on any changes in this area until we can do the second round of work, which would dig deeper into that cultural heritage landscape, specifically look at some of the properties, and then bring back a recommendation to council about whether they should be designated. You really don't want to be having those conversations when somebody's bought the land, paid a huge price, thinking they can get 17 stories, and then you slap a designation on them and they can't redevelop it. So we don't want to have the conversation in those circumstances. We want to be proactive. And so really that amendment is to say, let's push pause, let's do the studies and see where it takes us. And then essentially the same kind of approach in Village Square. That is also part of another cultural heritage landscape. The Village Square itself is protected with 4 stories, which is a great improvement versus the previous plan, which had the adopted plan had 17 stories right smack in the middle of Village Square. I fought that for sure. So we're successful in that. But if you jump across the street to the church and then further east on Martha, there's allowance to go up to 11 stories. And I just think that's inappropriate. It'll start to destabilize that area and put pressure for height. So we're saying for consistency's sake, in that whole precinct, it should be 4 stories.
And finally, for those who aren't familiar with watching your virtual sessions online, please advise where residents can go to tune in.
BurlingtonCalendar.ca is where you find everything. So you would look for the meeting date, which of course is September 30th. It's the Community Planning, Regulation and Mobility Committee meeting that you would search for. And once you're there, there's a link to the agenda. And tomorrow, once we are live, you will see the live box pop right up and you can watch in real time. We also post the recording subsequently within a day or two. So if you miss it, you can always go back again to that same page in the agenda. The minutes eventually will be posted there, so you'll see what changes get approved by committee tomorrow, and then it's the same for all of our committee meetings.
With school back in session and high school students walking to and from each day, it's extra important to remember to be vigilant at any crosswalks that you see, to bring your car to a full stop and wait until there are no more people walking across before you continue driving. Constable Ryan Snow explains the rules for crosswalks and that they're slightly different than those at intersections.
So, over the last year, we've actually seen a general increase by the municipalities in the amount of crossovers that are being implemented on area roadways. And a lot of that's in response to placing these crossovers in areas where there isn't an intersection close by, where pedestrians can safely cross the street. So you'll find them in a lot of subdivisions, you'll find them around schools, and even in some of our downtown areas as well. So for a lot of your viewers that may kind of question, how do I know the difference? What you're going to see, there's some real telltale signs about what a crossover is. If you see any sort of signage either on each side of the road that may overhang the road, it will say stop for pedestrians. It's generally a white on black sign. A lot of the newer ones also have strobe lights. So as opposed to those old yellow flashing lights you're used to seeing, you're going to see something a lot more modern. It's a white strobe light. The telltale signs on the ground that I find are actually probably the largest help is that the area where pedestrians are supposed to cross over is actually painted in a white ladder design. So a white ladder painted across the road is a really good telltale sign that this is a pedestrian crossover. The other thing, funnily enough, I think the kids will actually think is pretty cool is that instead of a typical white stop line that we're all used to seeing at stop signs and intersections, is that the stop sign is a series of white triangles that look like shark's teeth. So it's very, very easy to tell. If you see kind of a shark tooth stop line, you see a ladder section, you see some lights, potentially strobes, signage. You'll see a number of different formats of these, but they all mean the same thing. If you are a motorist, you have to come to a complete stop and you have to allow the pedestrian the full width of the roadway, meaning you're not allowed to proceed until they've actually left the roadway surface and have safely crossed to the other side of the roadway.
Wondering what the penalty is for not obeying the rules of a crossover? Ryan Snow explains why it's best for you to do so.
It's a $365 fine for failing to stop at a crossover or failing to yield to a pedestrian in a crossover. So $365, 4 points on your license, which is halfway to getting a call from the driver improvement office. So if you've ever had a moving violation in the past, you failed to stop at a crossover, you could actually be into enforcement action from the ministry as well.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had profound impacts on local business. As we prepare for a second wave, the Burlington Chamber, in partnership with Chamber members, experts, and thought leaders, will host a three-part webinar series. Burlington Chamber President Carla Nell joins us now with more on what to expect in the first installment.
So we've launched our Eye on the Economy series. We do have 3 episodes coming up. The first is going to be published on the 1st of October from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. And this episode is going to be featuring TD Canada Trust economist Omar Abdelrahman. He's going to be sharing some key insights about the impacts of COVID-19 on our national, provincial, and our local economy, talking about major trends as well as what's in store beyond the pandemic. And then we have 2 other parts to this series. The second is going to be hosted by the Realtors Association of Hamilton Burlington. That episode will be airing on the 30th of October. And that organization is going to walk us through the latest trends in the real estate market, including both residential and commercial, for those who are buying or selling property or considering a lease agreement or arrangement. This is an amazing opportunity to gain some firsthand knowledge about what's happening within today's marketplace. And then our third episode is going to be made available in November. It's going to be hosted by SB Partners, and they're going to be providing participants with strategic business advice on financial management. So terrific opportunities to hear from experts about the effects of COVID on all aspects of our economy. And these are going to be interactive live sessions. So there will be an opportunity for questions and answers. So not to be missed.
Thanks for that. And as we head towards cooler temperatures, it's important to remember that flu season is right around the corner. Nikki Wesley spoke with an Oakville pharmacist to find out what we can expect and what the differences and similarities are between the flu, COVID-19, and the common cold.
Last flu season, there were more than 5,700 flu-related hospitalizations and 280 deaths in Ontario. This year, in the midst of the COVID pandemic, as we head toward flu season, pharmacies and physicians' offices are preparing for a wave of patients looking for a flu shot. Pharmacist and PharmaSave owner, Ziad Deneau.
So I think just like every year, we're prepared to provide flu vaccine to all patients that request it. Health Canada recommends everybody age 6 months and up to receive a flu vaccine if they want protection from the flu. I think this year maybe in a way it's different because we're also expecting and preparing for a second wave of the COVID-19. And I always like to remind patients and clients and the population that COVID-19 and flu are caused by 2 different viruses. The last thing we want is to jeopardize anyone's health with contracting both viruses, because both can cause an infection simultaneously. And where COVID-19 still has no vaccine to date, we have an effective and safe vaccine for the flu. We offer it every year because every year it changes slightly.
Deneau is expecting the flu shot to be made available by Public Health in early October.
In every given year, we try to vaccinate high-risk patients, patients that have chronic medical conditions, patients who are 65 and over, children under 5, anybody that is caring for a child under 5 or for a senior. So we try to vaccinate that segment of the population first, and then it's opened up to the rest of the population.
In a study of more than 7,000 participants across Ontario and Atlantic Canada, 86% of respondents said they plan to get the flu shot this year. 56% of those surveyed said COVID-19 has affected their flu shot decision, and they're feeling more nervous about getting sick.
Every year it's around 75%. So there is an uptick in the desire to get vaccinated. Rightfully so. It is the right thing to do, and that's what we preach to all our patients.
With many shared symptoms between the flu and COVID and the common cold, PharmaSave has created a downloadable comparison chart.
Some of the similarities are aches and pains or fever. These happen in both COVID-19 and in the flu. But the flu typically is not associated with difficulty breathing, whereas COVID-19 is known to cause difficulty breathing. Not in all cases, but it is a common symptom. So it's very difficult to discern which one you're going to have Hopefully you'll have neither, but a best way to start the season is come and get vaccinated.
Pharmacists and physicians want patients to call to be screened for symptoms before they come in for a flu shot.
Because if you are displaying any symptoms that can be COVID-related symptoms, we prefer if you stay at home and quarantine until you feel a little bit better. That's to limit community spread. We're all responsible equally to keep each other safe. So that's probably my request, and that's the recommendation from Public Health. And hopefully you'll have a safe winter season.
Reporting for Halton News, I'm Nikki Wesley.
Thanks for being with us here on Halton News. We do need to take a short break. We'll be right back with the director of the Burlington Food Bank. And still ahead, we'll hear from the race director of the Around the Bay Road Race. Stay with us. Welcome back to Halton News. And while all donations are certainly very much appreciated by the Burlington Food Bank, having repeat donations each month they can count on makes a big difference.
It's Hunger Action Month, and the focus this week is on donate, and we just wanted to thank our regular monthly donors that give to us. Many of them give to us online, but we also see regularly checks coming in from different donors throughout the city, and we just wanted to thank you for taking the time to write us a check and let us know that you care about the people that we're supporting. And we continue to be able to do that because of great donors like yourselves, as well as those that donate online. And we just really appreciate those monthly donations that come in, and it gives us the stability to be able to do what we do each month, knowing that we're going to be okay next month. We also wanted to thank a couple of organizations, BDO Canada, who've been a long-time supporter of us, and they do yearly food drive and fundraising drives, and right now they're doing one through a Canada Helps page for us. And Portland Holdings just gave us a call and asked if they could help us out as well, and so they're doing that kind of fundraising for us as well. We just wanted to thank all of you for doing those types of things, and continuing to support us to be able to serve those here in Burlington that need our help, and making sure that we are able to provide nutritious food in a timely manner with dignity to all those who need our help.
Beautiful day out there today. Here's a look downtown Burlington as we head into our 5-day forecast. We still do have rain ahead of us, quite a bit of it in the forecast depending on where you are in the Halton region. There is the chance of thunder showers tomorrow, reaching a high of 17 degrees in the afternoon with a 60% chance of rain showers. Slightly less chance of rain on Thursday and Friday, but still expect it. Perhaps pack your umbrella if you're heading out of the house. Mix of sun and cloud. Otherwise, Saturday's high only reaching 12 degrees, but of the 2 days, it's your better bet for outdoor activities. Sunday, we are looking at cloudy skies and rain showers. And now a look to how some of Halton's top companies performed on the markets today. Still ahead, an update from the race director of the annual Around the Bay Road Race. That's ahead. Stay with us. The pandemic has changed our lives in many ways in 2020 and has canceled so many events. The annual Around the Bay Road Race was so close to getting underway back in March before they had to cancel and reschedule. Race Director Anna Lewis explains.
Actually, we were 2 weeks before our race that was scheduled on March 29th, and everything just seemed to turn upside down very, very quickly. So we decided to postpone to November 22nd. And it looked in the summer like we were heading in the right direction, but very quickly again, the trend seemed to go the opposite way. So we couldn't go forward given the outdoor gathering limits and the way the COVID cases were increasing. It just didn't make sense to move forward, and we're really not allowed to move forward.
And of course, the cancellation affected race organizers and runners, but also many other behind-the-scenes participants, you were saying.
So everything was pretty much ready to go. our shirts and medals are actually still sitting at First Ontario Centre. And thankfully they're letting us store it there until hopefully March, where we can host the race again. But there's many moving parts. Our water station volunteers, our suppliers, our timing companies, they were all ready to go. And so it is a big impact, not only on us, but our vendors, our volunteers, our participants. So there's a great impact across the board. The hotels and tourism, the restaurants, they all benefited from the race as well.
Now, those who were planning to participate can either hold their spot in 2021, or there are other options as well.
We did give our registrants options, so they could defer their entry to March 2021 or March 2022, or earn their medal and shirt any way they wish on their own. So, in that respect, it is virtual. They can do it on their own time, their own route. So around their corner, around their bay, around their neighborhood, they can make around the bay their own route.
For those of you still looking for something to do in your community, I want to remind you that Culture Days is going around in each of our communities, and it's running until October 25th. There are all kinds of in-person and online events happening in each of our communities. To find an event near you, please visit culturedays.ca. Burlington MPP Jane McKenna is proud to announce a collaborative effort with the Electronic Recycling Association and the Pediatric Oncology Group of Ontario in a 6-week-long collection drive to collect electronic devices to provide to children who are undergoing cancer treatments. The drive will run from September 24th to November 6th, Mondays through Fridays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you have a laptop, computer, monitor, printer, cell phone, tablet, or any other electronic device that you can part with, you can drop it off at Jane McKenna's office. It will be refurbished and given to children who have been diagnosed with cancer so that they can continue their education, stay connected with loved ones, and keep themselves entertained. The Halton Environmental Network says climate action takes a village. They invite you to join with them in their village of local environmental and community groups on September 30th at 7 p.m. for a free screening of the 2040 film. The film focuses on solutions and approaches that could change our climate crisis. To view it, please visit the link haltonenvironet.ca. And finally, you can register now. All ages can register for activity in Halton. There are activities for every age range, group, and ability. To do so, please visit milton.ca and click Arts and Recreation. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will be back live again tomorrow night at 5:30. We'll see you then. For Halton News, I'm Jessica Kading.